to the Token and Hobbs Show on the Roads to Liberty Network.
Good evening, Liberty lovers. It's Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Central, and you are listening to the Token and Hobbs Show live on the Roads to Liberty YouTube channel. Why the YouTube channel? Because I am still in the middle of a 90-day ban on live streaming on Facebook. So that's still fun. So you guys want to be a part of the live show, you got to get on our YouTube channel these days. That's where all the fun is being had. So if you're listening to this podcast later, remember every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Central Time, Roads to Liberty YouTube. That's where you can find us. Speaking of which, I am Token, your host, joined by Congressman Dustin Hobbs. What is going on, my man?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just another day, another week. Living the dream.
I gotta say though, dude, this week is extra sweet. Extra sweet. Because what happened this week? Something very important happened this week. The CDC admitted that we were right. That's what happened this week. Take off the masks, everybody. We're all good to go. The pandemic is over. Now, they're not quite saying it in those words yet, but we all know what this means. When the CDC comes out and say, hey, all you people that are vaccinated, you can take off the mask. You know what they're really saying is, shit, we can't keep, we done fucked up. That's what they're really saying. Like, oh, damn it. We really thought that we could keep this going forever, but people are starting to get wise to our bullshit. And our actions are having some pretty dire consequences, right? We got to cover for our old senile man, Joe Biden. We got to make sure that he looks good at all times. So we're going to tell everybody, hey, if you're vaccinated, go ahead and take off the mask. Now, you may ask yourself, because this is what I asked myself, right? What changed? That's what I wanted to know immediately after hearing this. And they're like, oh, you guys are just going to do a 180? Just turn completely around and contradict everything you've been saying for months. I want to know what changed. What new knowledge do we have? Any new studies come out? Any vital information that we didn't know 2 weeks ago that just came out this week that prompted this change? Of course, Hobbs, you know what the answer to that question is. The answer is nothing changed. There is absolutely no change in the available knowledge about COVID-19 at all. So this change that they decided to bring about in the masking guidelines is really just completely and utterly arbitrary. And it's a move they should have made months ago. And it's a move that Joe Biden was calling Neanderthal thinking just a month ago. So I guess that means we can all call Joe Biden a Neanderthal now. What do you think?
Well, you say that nothing has changed, but that is exactly what's changed, is the fact that Texas, Florida have opened up again. States like Nebraska, South Dakota, which never shut down to begin with, are all experiencing numbers plummeting, whereby the states that have the heaviest restrictions are also the states that have numbers that are staying pretty steady or even rising. And I think it was today, Governor Abbott in Texas celebrated Texas's first week straight with 0 COVID deaths.
0. Well, that's just because people are still masking in Texas. That's what's going on there, right? Because you remember, it was what was how many weeks ago was it? Must have been like a month at this point now, where they decided to open up Texas, lift all restrictions, no more mask mandate. You had thousands of people on opening day to see the Texas Rangers play, right? And what did we all see? What Joe Biden called it Neanderthal thinking. The freaking head of the CDC said that she saw doom and gloom around on the horizon because states were opening up too quickly. Guys, Stop. No more. Don't open up. Stay locked down. Keep wearing your mask. Don't go to restaurants. Don't open schools. Panic, panic, fear, fear. Listen to us. We're the experts. We're the scientists. Anything. And if you don't listen to us, you're Neanderthals. You're stupid. You want grandma to die. And that all got proven completely 100% false. It was a lie. They tell you that they're the scientists. They're the experts. Follow the science, Hobbs. Follow the science and do as we say. These guys are not following the science. Not one bit whatsoever. There's nothing scientific about the way that the CDC and Dr. Fauci and the White House are conducting themselves right now. There's nothing scientific about it. It's all political showmanship. That's all any of this is. Right? And even the requirement for unvaccinated people to keep wearing masks, that's just political showmanship too. Because if you're following the science, if you're vaccinated, you shouldn't worry about people who are unvaccinated. You're vaccinated. You're good. You're safe. Why are you so worried? Oh, I could still get the virus. Yeah, but it won't hurt you. That's sort of the point, isn't it? You can still contract COVID-19, but it's not supposed to hurt you. Oh, I can still spread it to other people. Yeah, to who? Other people who are unvaccinated? Like, quit pretending that you care about the well-being of people who choose not to get vaccinated. Like, you tell us every day, all the time, how you do not give a shit about people who are unvaccinated. They need to be treated like second-class citizens. I hear this all the fucking time, right? So stop pretending you care about their health. And if you're talking about spreading it to other people who are also vaccinated, well, you shouldn't worry about that either. Because, you know, if everything you say about the vaccine is true, they're safe as well. So what's the deal here? There's no problem here. Take off the damn mask.
Well, the other thing that changed in regards to CDC guidelines and all of the other nonsense that's being pushed out is the fact that Rand is finally getting the chutzpah to say what people like me and you and some doctors and several investigative journalists and people like Alex Jones have been saying for the better part of a year. And that is that our tax dollars, your money and my money, have been going through the NIH, the NIH and the the NIAID or whatever it is, and the CDC and all the other alphabet agencies to fund the gain of function research, first at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and then when that was put on the back burner in 2015, they simply offshored it to the Wuhan lab BSL-4 in China, which was being indirectly funded because when the Obama administration, kudos to them, when you're right, and I'll call it. When the Obama administration said no more U.S. government funding of gain of function research, the people in our alphabet agencies simply decided to fund a private organization called EcoHealth, who in turn funneled that money to the Chinese Communist Party, to the Wuhan lab where the COVID-19 originated from, and Rand Paul's orbit as to whether or not COVID-19 actually originated in that lab. He also is grilling Fauci on whether or not our money made it happen. And Fauci's up there playing weasel words with Rand Paul, saying like, "Oh, we did not fund gain of function research at the Wuhan lab," and it's like, yes, but we gave money to EcoHealth, who then funneled it through the Chinese government to Wuhan lab. Correct? We did not fund gain of function research. It's like, I understand that we did not directly fund gain of function research, but we knowingly gave money to a private organization which enabled the funding of gain-of-function research. So they're playing these little, like, linguistic two-step up there on Capitol Hill, and in a Fox News interview, Rand Paul said what I had been hoping somebody would say, and he says that if it turns out that that Fauci's involvement with the funneling of money to the Chinese government, this to happen, then there could be charges, criminal charges. Fauci in jail charges.
I would love to see that man in jail. I would absolutely love it. Like, where's going to be all the we listen to Dr. Fauci people now? Yeah, if Dr. Fauci goes to jail, it's like, oh, listen to Fauci. Listen to Dr. Fauci. He's the expert in this. It's kind of funny that this dude that nobody ever knew who he was, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, became like the guy in the U.S. It's like, man, like people just stopped what they were doing and just said, hey, this is the dude. This is the guy we're going to listen to. Whatever this guy says is what we're going to listen to. And it's just kind of like how this guy, this fucking dude, was given that much social power over everybody. And like people stop their whole lives to abide by whatever Dr. Fauci told them to do, which is, it's sad, right? Like this fucking guy straight up lied to people in the early days of this pandemic, straight up lied to them, right? Back in when they were still telling people not to wear masks. Right? And then he turns around and be like, no, you got to wear masks. You got to wear masks. If you don't wear masks, you're not doing your patriotic duty. Then this week does a complete 180. And it was kind of funny because it wasn't Dr. Fauci that came out and changed the standards. It was the CDC. And then Dr. Fauci kind of had to just go along with it. He's like, oh, yeah, I guess the CDC said so. So I guess that's okay.
Oh, he didn't even do that though. When the CDC came out and changed it from you don't have to wear masks because masks do nothing to everybody's got to wear a mask or you're going to kill grandma. You know, somebody asked him on one of the morning talk shows, like, well, why this complete 180? And he's like, oh well, we lied to you, and yes, we admit that we lied to you, but we did it because we didn't want people to go out and make a run on buying up all of the masks, and so we wouldn't have any for our hospital workers and everything. It's like, oh, okay, so yeah, you lied to people, and you admit that you lied to people, but you did it for a good cause. The ends justify the means.
No, why didn't they just tell all those hospital workers to go home and make masks out of old T-shirts like people have been doing? Right? And I thought the whole point of the mask was to protect others, not yourself. So, you know, why do the hospital workers need to wear the mask? Right? Are they sick? Is that the idea? Are the hospital workers sick? No, they're treating people who are sick. So, you know, maybe the people who are sick should be wearing the mask. Right? But that's besides the point. If everybody went out and made a run for masks, that just means there's more people out in the public who have masks, which means there's less infected people, right? I mean, it's this really ridiculous logic that Dr. Fauci uses, and then uses it to justify telling everybody in the country what to do. And it's kind of funny seeing the reaction to all this, because there seems to be, well, there's a vast array of reactions. Like, our reaction to this was, duh, of course, but why are you changing this now? What changed, right? You're just admitting we're right. And there's the left that has been all about mask, and they're married to masks. They love the mask. They do not want to let go of them. So there's like two different reactions I've seen. One reaction is like euphoric celebration, like, it's over, we did it, we beat COVID-19 because the CDC randomly decided to change their guidelines based on no new information. So they're celebrating all this. See, they're not following the science, obviously, because nothing changed, right? If it's okay to take off the mask now, it was okay to do so last week, and based on the same exact information. So there shouldn't be any of this euphoric celebration. On the other hand, there's the people who are like, well, I'm still wearing my mask. I'm not going to take it off. There are too many unvaccinated people out there. I'm going to keep wearing my mask. And they're not following the science either, because there's no reason for them to be following a mask. They're already vaccinated. They're fine. They're good. They have nothing to worry about, but they want to wear the mask because it's still giving them that undeserved sense of moral superiority. I'm a good person. Look at me. I got a mask up. You can't see my face. I'm better than you.
It's a symbol now. It has become a political symbol. It's like Bloods and Crips wearing red and blue. It's like people in fundamentalist Islamic countries wearing burqas and those red and white or black and white plaid-like headdresses to signify whether or not they've made the march to Mecca or not. You know, it's like that. It's a way to broadcast out to everyone around you that I believe X, Y, and Z. And the lines are there. It's not about safety. It's not about hygiene. It's not about health anymore. You will see Republicans and you will see libertarians and you will see Democrats who still believe their own lying eyes are not wearing masks and have not worn masks for a long time because they see through the bullshit. Whereas you will see radical leftists who just want to belong to some type of movement because they are inherently collectivists who into this mask as a part of their identity now, and they have been inflicted, and I use the word inflicted intentionally, inflicted with an acute case of agoraphobia. That is the fear of going outside. They have been, it's all psychological abuse that they've been subjected to by the politicians and the media class that they follow and glom onto so near religiously at this point. You know, if you see somebody wearing a mask, or if you see somebody doubled up on masks, or you see somebody wearing like an insane amount of PPE, especially this late in the game, you are guaranteed that this person is a rabid left-wing individual. Or, you know, maybe an compromised person, but those people are smart enough to avoid crowds instead of trying to go out there. I heard a story, read a story about a guy who, for the past year, every time he goes out grocery shopping, he puts on an N95 mask, puts a cloth mask over it, wears a pair of goggles, and a pair of rubber gloves. He's been doing this. He's been doing this for a year. He plans on doing this for at least the next 5 years. It gets better. Despite this person level of hypochondriacism or whatever, he contracted COVID-19. He has the antibodies. He is also fully vaccinated, so he should be safe. He should be doubly safe. But this crazy person has decided to double mask, goggle, and glove for at least the next 5 years. And once his 5-year period of this insanity is over with, he will have inflicted upon himself a severe degree of immunocompromisation, because he will not have built up any antibodies or any immunities to influenza, the common cold, or any of the other things that normal people deal with every single day. So when he takes his little PPE off after this 5 year and goes out to eat at a restaurant or goes out to grocery stores or whatever without his gloves and his mask on, he's going to catch something and it is going to hammer him. And he's going to start the whole cycle over again.
You gotta wonder though how it's not that I doubt that he's serious about it. It's just that a year from now, that guy goes out into the wider public, because these people are essentially sheep, right? They're not thinking for themselves. They're not acting this way because they looked at the data and they've come to the conclusion that this is the right and proper and safe way to act. They're acting this way because society has been validating them acting this way for a year, right? There's something very insidious about praising this sort of demented behavior as morally righteous. But it makes me wonder, once that societal pressure is gone, I doubt these people will keep doing this. Like, I remember talking to a guy months and months ago. It was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to keep wearing a mask forever regardless because, you know, I don't want to give the flu to kids and have them die from it. And I'm like, I doubt you will. I doubt that because you're going to be going outside a year from now. Nobody's going to be wearing a mask. And you're going to be looking around going, man, I feel like a dumbass being the one guy. I do not have that social validation anymore, right? Everyone else is no longer wearing a mask. So like a good little sheep, I'm going to do what everybody else is doing, right?
Right. But either that or he's going to be the real life version of that meme where the guy's like standing back in the corner and everybody else is having a good time at the party and he's back in the corner. It's like they don't know that I'm saving their lives by wearing my mask.
It's like these guys, joke's on them. This party is going to be a super spreader, but I'm not going to get it.
And I'm not going to give it to anybody else either because that's how it works.
Because I'm a good person. You know, there's also an element of Stockholm Syndrome to this whole thing. Because not only are these people going along with everything their captors say, but they're starting to they've fallen in love with them too. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you see this all the time, especially when it comes to Dr. Fauci. They fucking fall in love with this guy and praise him like he's God or something. You know, it's really creepy to see this happen in real life. Like, oh, Dr. Fauci. Did you see what Dr. Fauci said? Did you see what Dr. Fauci did? Oh, I love Dr. Fauci so much. He's such a good person. All the while, he's feeding you a bunch of bullshit. He doesn't have your best interests in mind. Not even a little bit. And you're just acting like sheep. Like, I really don't like just calling people sheep, right? But in this case, it really is very sheepish behavior. Because they're just doing whatever society validates them to do. Right? Oh, wear a mask, you're a good person. Oh, all these people are giving me thumbs up on Facebook for posting a picture of myself with the mask on. I'm going to keep doing that because it makes me feel good.
It's a dopamine hit. And it's not even just social validation that these people are going after. The broader social not validation, but celebration. This behavior. It's like it's not enough that wearing a mask in public is the right thing to do. It's wearing a mask in the pub. Wearing a mask is brave. It's virtuous. It's wonderful. Clap, clap, clap for these people.
It's scientific.
Right.
Right. It's like follow the science. No, here's the funny thing now, though. Right. Is that the CDC has now made it unscientific to wear masks, right? Now, you see a person walking around with a mask. Now, the assumption is going to be that they're unvaccinated, right? If you're wearing a mask, that means you haven't gotten the vaccine, because if you've gotten the vaccine, it means you can take off the mask. So now you can say that is the hilarious thing about these new guidelines.
Right, and that is the cognitive dissonance that these people are dealing with right now. Rachel Maddow was on her show hemming and hawing about how she still wants to wear the mask in spite of being fully vaccinated, and that she has to read her brain to not see unmasked as a threat. And that's the type of...
Oh my God.
So now, and then you also see like the roundtable discussion groups on some of these left wing, where they're like, we need some way to tell who's who at a glance, because how do we know that somebody wearing a mask or not wearing a mask is actually vaccinated and just not wearing the mask? And it's like,
oh my God.
And
like, you don't. You
Yeah.
don't know. That's the point. Life
Yes.
is about risk. You take a risk every time you leave your door before and after this pandemic, right? There's always a chance when you get on the road, you're going to be hit by a car and die. There's always a chance of death. There's always a risk whenever you leave your house, right? Just living, there's always a risk that you're just going to randomly get a heart attack and drop dead. Right? Oh, we need to know who's vaccinated, who's unvaccinated. If you're so scared, then you can stay at home for the rest of your life. You can put on the gloves and the goggles and the N95 mask and the freaking cloth mask, and you can get yourself in a hazmat suit every time you leave the house if that's what it takes to make you feel safe. But just understand this, it's not. Right? You're just looking for social validation. You're just being a fucking lunatic at that point. Like, you don't need to know if everyone else around you is vaccinated. You didn't need to know that about the flu vaccine 2 years ago, right? You don't need to know that about COVID now. Simple. Like, no, people aren't going to be carrying around a fucking vaccination card wherever they go. Right?
See,
it's
and
dumb.
That's what they're moving. This is something we talked about, several times before, when they float these little ideas out there, just to put that little seed in the back of your head. This is narrative framing. What they're going to do now is they're going to slow walk out this narrative idea that anybody without a mask can be assumed to be vaccinated. But what if they're not? What if they're one of these evil, smooth-brained, low-sloping forehead Neanderthal flyover country Trump people out there that's just using the no vaccination, but they're not masking up to be because they're evil and they want to spread the disease and kill your grandma. So now we're going to need something like a vaccine passport. That's what they're moving toward. We are going from 2 weeks to 2 weeks to flatten the curve to show me your papers, please, in the span of about 15 months. And that's what it's going to come down to. And I know this is going to sound tinfoil hatty, but you're going to be looking at things like easy identification, tattoos, RFID. I mean, I've already seen people getting like the Moderna symbol and the lot number that their vaccine came from tattooed like on the inside of their biceps or something, because they're so damn proud that they got their fucking Fauci ouchie. Like this man is some type of a fucking saint or something. Yeah, people are getting big pharma logos and lot numbers tattooed on themselves. Sometimes the cattle brand themselves, But yeah, it's just so dumb. But that's what they're moving towards. Wait until the RFID shit comes in. Yeah, call me a conspiracy theorist all you want, but that's what's coming.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see, right? Because that's the thing about it. These vaccine cards that they're printing out for people, you can just print one of those on the internet. Those little vaccine cards don't actually mean anything, right? It's absolutely useless, right? And here's the thing about it. It's going to be fun just calling the people who continue to mask anti-science. Maybe we can use a little bit of shaming of our own. They've been trying to shame people who don't want to wear masks for a year and a half now. Maybe we can turn that around and start shaming people who are wearing masks. Like, oh, you're wearing a mask, huh? That means you didn't get vaccinated. Oh, no, I'm vaccinated. Oh, so you don't believe in science then? Is that what it is? You don't trust the CDC? You don't trust Dr. Fauci? Why are you anti-science? Huh?
Yep.
what? No, I don't. What?
Yes.
They do.
That is a wonderful idea to turn it all on their head. If you got your vaccine, you're safe. Oh, but I could still spread it. Well, then that's not a vaccine. That's not how a vaccine works. A vaccine keeps you from getting it. It doesn't make you asymptomatic. So what is it that they stuck in your arm?
I think
it's not a vaccine.
I think what you need to do is like go places without your mask. And when you see and go with somebody, and when you see someone wearing a mask, you very loudly turn to the person you're with and go, "Stay away from that person. They're unvaccinated. They can still give you COVID." It's like, can you believe this? This unvaccinated person wearing a mask because, they can still spread it. So they're still wearing a mask to protect everyone else. Can you believe this guy? Can you believe him? Like, no, you don't understand. I believe in the science. I am vaccinated. I don't believe you. If you were vaccinated and you believed in science, you'd take the mask off because Dr. Fauci said you can take it off now.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of reverse shaming. I mean, I don't know if it'll actually work, but the experiment is at least worthy of a try.
Right.
Someone
and
Gary
asked if Hannah is vaccinated. She's had her pertinent shots. She's not COVID vaccinated, but she's got the ones that I know work.
She's got her rabies shot.
Yep, got her rabies, got her kennel cough.
Can dogs get mad cow? Random question. I don't know the answer to this.
Mad cow is I think it's a prion disease.
Yeah, it's a prion disease that cows get.
Yeah, prions are let's see what it's like a protein fragment in the brain. It's not a virus.
It's a protein that gets bent out of shape.
Yeah.
Right? So now it starts going haywire and eating at the tissue surrounding it. But a faulty prion can infect others, right? Like a bad protein, it can infect other proteins around it.
Right.
And it can be contagious. Like the way mad cow disease spread back in the UK is that they would feed like cow remnants to other cows. Like a cow would die, they'd use up the pieces and whatever leftover goop they had, they'd use that as cow feed. So if a cow was infected with it and they feed it to other cows, now all those other cows are infected with it, right?
Yeah.
So these prion diseases, they can spread like that.
Right. Prion diseases have always traditionally been called like the cannibal's disease. You usually get it by eating whatever it is that you are. Like a dog eats another dog, they could get prion disease. That's usually has to deal with the brain. You eat the brain matter of your species, you put yourself at very high risk of prion disease.
Yeah, but it's not always just like through eating, right? Like deer, like a chronic wasting disease. It's a disease. It's a prion disease in deer, but it's not spread through deer eating other deer.
Right.
It's spread through bodily fluids, right? So if deers are exchanging bodily fluids, then they spread the disease, right? There's cases of hunters will put out like salt licks to attract deer. And then all these different deer will go there. They'll use the salt lick and infect each other that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the blue tongue disease is one of those wonderful ways that nature kind of keeps itself in check. You don't see blue tongue until a deer population hits a critical, unsustainable mass.
I'm not sure what blue tongue is. Is that another deer disease?
Yeah, it's another deer disease, and stuff like that, and the prion disease that you were talking about are one of those things that you don't typically see until overpopulation hits, and then nature kind of culls the herd. Blue tongue is another deer disease. It's just what it sounds like. A deer gets blue tongue, and the tongue turns blue and swells up so big that they can't eat or drink, and eventually can't breathe, and then they just die.
Well, that's a horrible way to die.
Mm-hmm.
A swollen tongue. Like prion disease are pretty fucking terrifying, though.
Yeah.
Like even think about it's not a virus or a bacteria. It's a protein. It's a protein that's bent out of shape and goes haywire in your brain and starts eating away at your brain tissue. Right. So there's no way that you can't kill it. Right, you can't vaccinate against a prion, right? and it can remain dormant in a host for years. And all that time, you can spread that whatever prion disease you have to other people without even realizing you have it, and they're 100% fatal. Like you don't live through a prion disease. I don't know why I asked about it. It was just on my mind because I was watching a video earlier about mad cow disease in England. It's like, oh yeah, this is why people who have been in England between this and this time can't donate blood, because they could potentially be infected with mad cow disease, and they don't want mad cow disease in the blood supply. Like I can't donate blood, right? Because I was born in England back in the late 80s, and that was during this whole mad cow thing, right? It was kind of funny. I remember being basic training. Did you guys do this thing where at a certain point in basic training, everyone goes to the hospital and donates blood?
No, we didn't do any of that.
Yeah, we did that. Everyone had to go donate blood. And I'm like, I can't donate blood everyone. I might have mad cow disease. Like, okay.
I bet that put everybody at ease.
Like, yeah, you guys been hanging around with this whole time. I might give you some mad cow. I might have it. You don't know. You don't know. You got to be
That's
safe,
when you
right?
That's when you just shake your fist at them and go, moo. You're a mad cow. You're an angry cow.
So I had to be. So it was funny because some people pass out when they donate blood. It's like something about the needle and the drawing out blood. They pass out. So you have to have people stand. So I had to like be behind them to catch them in case they passed out. Since I couldn't donate blood, that was my job, to catch people in case they passed out.
Yep.
I was like, do we really need people who are going to pass out giving blood in the military? Is that really the kind of person we want?
I don't know, man.
I don't know. It seems kind of counterproductive to staff your military with people who can't stand the sight of blood.
Yeah, but a lot of the things that the military have been doing nowadays are not making any sense at all.
No, you know what? We didn't really get to talk about that article last week about
the Army's physical fitness test.
Yeah, that one. We talked a little bit about it, but we didn't really get to go into any of the details about it.
We got enough. I think that it can be summed up as if they keep the gender neutral standards the way they are right now, you will have a lot fewer women in the military, but the women that are in the military are going to be great. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah, that should be.
That should be what you want. It's not a barrier. Women being in the military, because there are women that are passing it. 56% of women are passing it. Half are failing it. Mm-hmm. And so it's not a barrier to women being in the military. It's a barrier to unphysically fit women being in the military. It's a barrier to physically weak women being in the military, just like the physical fitness test is a barrier to unphysical fit men being in the military, and men who have disabilities and women who have disabilities and medical conditions and everything else. The military is a physical occupation that requires you to have a certain degree of physicality in order to make it, and that should not be controversial, and yet here we are.
And it should be a barrier. That's the point of it, right? You wouldn't have the entire point of having a physical fitness test is to be a barrier to those who cannot meet that physical standard. That's the entire reason you have a PT test to begin with, to weed out those who are incapable of meeting said standards, right? And if you're artificially lowering the standards just so that X, Y, and Z demographic can pass the tests more, then what you're really doing is just letting physically weak people into positions they shouldn't be in. You're setting them up for failure.
Right. And that, bigger crime than not having, gender parity or ethnic parity or whatever it is that you're trying to without having the prerequisite physical or mental or whatever it is. And when you fail, it could very well put somebody else's life on the line or your own life. And when that happens, then who is responsible? Well, you for failing, first off, but the people who decided to lower the standards and make an exception for you because they wanted to reach some arbitrary number of females or whatever to boost numbers of to look good on a PowerPoint presentation in front of the woke scolds in Congress. So whatever. I'm not in the military anymore, but
Nope.
I still would like the US military to be an elite fighting force instead of a gender studies experiment.
Nah, man. Let's just let the military do its own thing. We got it. We can rely on our own homegrown militias to protect ourselves from the invading Canadians when they decide to come down from the frozen north.
Yeah, when they want to get some Lebensraum that isn't frozen tundra. No, but to that, we have this quiet exodus of people that joined the military because, for whatever reason, I joined partially for the experience, because I just didn't have a job. I, liked the idea of the college money, and also because I'm a big fan of the United States of America. And I think that's the reason that most people join, in addition to all of the various benefits and everything. Well, people like that see the direction that the military is going right now are quietly leaving, and they're leaving the wokeists behind. And I think that's being done by design, because you kind of tongue-in-cheek hit on it there, where we'll have our own homegrown militias and everything, and that's all fine and dandy, but we don't have access to the bigger stuff, the tammers, the real heavy hitting stuff. And I think that that's what this is all about, is as long as people like me and you and whatnot are in the military, they will have access to that stuff. But if you just browbeat them out of the military by making toxic, unbearably woke place to inhabit, well, yeah, now they can't get to that stuff anymore.
Right. And then it's only the woke folks that have access to fucking fighter jets and M1 Abrams tanks and all that fun stuff. But you know what? I'm not really worried about it. Here's the thing about it. The only reason that the U.S. military is even able to get away with something like this is I don't think they actually see a threat on the horizon. Like, I don't think they're actually looking at the world stage and saying there is a legitimate threat to the continued survival of the United States that we need to guard against. And what do they do? What's the U.S. military doing? They're chasing down, Taliban in Afghanistan. They're standing guard in dozens of bases around the world. Right? They got military advisors in Syria and Iraq and all these different places. But when it comes to like an actual fist fight war, like think World War II, like we were in a real fight in World War II. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about it. A war where thousands of people would die in a single day. Right? Fighting an enemy that was fanatical, refused to give in, refused to give up, and would fight you for every inch of ground. That's not the kind of war we fight these days. Right? You fight you try to get if you try to think about transporting a bunch of woke scolds from 2021 back into 1944, have them storm a beach in the Pacific. I don't think they'd do so well. I think the woke brigade would get pretty decimated if they tried landing on one of the beaches in the Pacific. But if you don't have to land on a beach in the Pacific, then you don't got to worry about that sort of thing, right? And you can have all the wokesters in the military that you want.
Right. So either A, like you said, they don't see a legit threat on the horizon that would need the type of well-manned, well-stocked fighting force that a traditional army has, or B, they do see a threat on the horizon and would rather have the type of people who would welcome it in with open arms, like, say, the communist Chinese or the United Nations doing peacekeeping operations when the deadly right-wing extremists decide that they've had enough of the bullshit and decide to stir things up.
Yeah, it's that latter part that I think is the actual deal here, because you've seen since January 6th this desire for the left to turn George Bush's Patriot Act on war on terror inwards, like all that stuff. Let's Patriot Act, war on terror to fight the Afghans or the Iraqis. Now it's being turned internally against Americans, right? And this same linguistic trickery that we've seen for years now in order to label everybody that you don't like as a Nazi or a white supremacist or a fascist or whatever. That same linguistic trickery will be used against the non-woke in this country, right? Because they're not looking abroad and seeing this vast threat that's a threat to the continued existence of American liberty. They're looking inwards. They're looking at conservatives. They're looking at libertarians. Don't you ever forget that the former head of the CIA got on to what was it, CNN, and named off a list of people that he thought were, dangerous to the country, and libertarians were on that list. Don't you ever forget that. To these people, we are the enemy.
Right.
You, me, libertarians. And you know what? Not completely unjustified. Because, being an enemy of the state is kind of what libertarians do. That's our bread and butter. We want to be enemies of the CIA and the FBI and the NSA. We are not these people's friends, right? But do not ever forget these
Except
people,
you, Darnell. We're your friend. We're your friend.
Exactly. But they want to turn this military-industrial complex inwards, pointed at American citizens that they consider to be, right-wing extremists, which is really just anyone who's not down with the woke propaganda that we're seeing every day. And that is a scary scenario. You combine that with what's been going on with COVID and all the government restrictions and government overreach and the possibility of having COVID passports. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the country right now. And we haven't even talked at all about the economy. The economy is going to shit too. All these things, they go together, right? And they help create the conditions necessary for government to make bigger and bigger power grabs. And if we're not careful, one day we might wake up and find that this peace and freedom loving democracy that we had, not really, but that we thought we had for so many years is suddenly gone. And it's replaced by a totalitarian nation run by a senile old man who should be in diapers by now.
How do you know he's not?
I don't know he's not. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he was.
Lord, it's a
messed up world, my man.
Yeah,
this world it's crazy, it's messed up. And I mean, I know there is reason for optimism. Libertarianism is getting more popular now than it's ever been. I think libertarians have been hugely vindicated to those who are just that are being intellectually honest with themselves. Libertarianism has proven to be itself to be hugely vindicated by this entire COVID pandemic. Do you remember when this whole thing kicked off and people were saying there's no such thing as a libertarian in a pandemic? Like, oh, the pandemic proves libertarianism wrong. Like, no, just the opposite. Just the opposite. While all the statists were freaking out and saying this is literally the end of the world, libertarians turned out to be right the whole time. Imagine that. The people who instinctively go to freedom as the solution to our problems were right about something.
Well, there's a few self-described libertarians out there who are still all hots on for the mask mandates and social distancing and all of the other stuff and the possibility of mandated vaccines, or at the very least like social pressure, not necessarily government mandates, but heavy degrees of social pressure for vaccinations. Or I shouldn't call it vaccines because it's not a vaccine. Gene therapy.
Well, it's kind of funny that you say that, because I remember the LP of Nevada was like the worst case of this. Like, they went on their Twitter feed and were like, we support free market COVID passports. And those guys, every single one of the guys that ran the Libertarian Party in Nevada got voted out at their recent convention. Every single one of them. And they got replaced entirely by Mises Caucus people.
Yeah, Mises Caucus has taken over. That's not just hype.
No, it's a real thing. And it's funny because Pennsylvania recently had their convention, right? Yep. And the only way they were able to stave off the Mises Caucus takeover was they disenfranchised all their new party members.
Yep.
That's how they had to do it, because there's a bylaw in the Libertarian Party in Pennsylvania which says that if you joined the party within 180 days of the convention, you're not allowed to vote. But that rule has been waived literally every single convention. Like, they've never used it. It's always been waived. Because, understandably so, because that's disenfranchising everybody that joined the party recently. Right? So the only way they were able to maintain power there was to disenfranchise, everybody that was a new voter, which it's kind of funny though, because Pennsylvania has a convention every single year, right? So what's going to happen next year when all those people that they disenfranchised the year before get to vote? It's like dummy, you didn't actually solve anything. You didn't actually win.
You just kicked the can down the road. And that, I think, is... I really think that the LPPA pulling what they did is almost a bigger victory than if they had just waived the 180-day membership bylaw, because it shows how afraid the establishment of the Libertarian Party... A Libertarian Party establishment. These are the same people that got TDS right after the 2016 election and thought that it would be a good to reach out and hold hands with disaffected Bernie bros, and made outreaches to people who think socialism is a good idea, and brought a bunch of these people into the party. And these people, as shit as their ideology is, they are really good at activism. And so they pushed all these weird fringe niche issues to the forefront of the ideology, or of the party, and started browbeating anybody that's like, oh, if you don't agree or you don't celebrate my lifestyle, then you're not a real libertarian, you're a fascist. And that was
seen that.
Yeah, that was it's like I don't have to celebrate your degeneracy in order to think that you should be allowed to do it. Go be you. Just go be you away from me. That's all. That's all I've ever asked. You do you. Just do you over there. Don't wave your dildos in my face. And we'll be fine. And there was for a while a large and very, very, very vocal segment of the Libertarian Party that was like, no, I'm going to be me, and I'm going to be me in your face, and you're going to like it, and you're going to tell everyone how much you like it, or you're a fascist. And
I don't get this as much anymore because I'm banned because I've been kicked off Twitter and Facebook, so I don't hear all this screeching anymore.
Right, yeah, and I still lurk in the Fakertarians page, and it's
Lord,
it's still just a toxic cesspit of left-lib navel gazing, just as it always has been. People are starting to go from being vocal because they think they represent the majority of thinking to being vocal because they're afraid of
They're afraid of losing their positions of power in the LP.
Correct. Yes.
They're a big fish in a tiny pond. And they're tiny fish in an even smaller pond, and the pond's getting bigger. It's getting bigger and bigger, and it's filling up with people who are better than they are.
Yes, it's filling up with salt water. It's filling up with salt water, the delicious salt water of the Mises Caucus.
Did you see Nick Sarwark's post? I think it was today.
The one that Ben posted?
Yes. Absolutely hilarious.
If you could pull it up, that we'll end on that note because yes, Nick Sarwark decided to post this, and the soy followers of his decided that they were going to melt down.
Yep, there it is. It goes, I have depression, anxiety disorder, and I'm antisocial. I have no friends. I'm in serious debt. I waste all my money on weed and video games. I've never even kissed a woman. I have no talents or any education. I spend all my free time playing video games and browsing Reddit. Now here's how I would fix the country. It's like, okay, that's pretty on point, actually.
Guy, you know what? When you're right, you're... And with that one, you are 100% correct, because that's not only a lot of libertarians, that's a lot of people in the political commentariat.
Yeah, that's a lot of people, period. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of all ideologies. I bet you can think about somebody right now who perfectly matches this description.
90%
right?
of the Fakertarians page.
They're antisocial. They have no friends. They've never had a serious relationship with anyone. They're never going to have kids, hopefully. And that's actually a good thing in their case, right? They spend their entire day playing video games and smoking weed, but they're going to tell you how to fix the country.
Yep.
Right? These thoroughly unimpressive people, they're going to tell you how to do things. And if you don't believe in the same things they do, and not even don't believe in the same things they do, if you don't live your life the same way they do, or look at them and say, that's kind of gross, then all of a sudden you're a fascist for that.
Yeah.
But, whatever.
Yeah. Before we bounce out here, Elastic Giraffe says, I think that the seasoning rules to prevent a bunch of opportunistic non-libertarians from raiding the convention and seizing control of state LP. And you're absolutely right, and that's why it is a good rule to have. If you know that, for instance, a lot of democratic socialists love this time register as Republican or Libertarian or Green, and they end up hijacking state parties and doing exactly that, taking control. They re-register en masse and do this shit all of the time. But the LPPA knew that the incoming caucus adherents and people who resonate with the Mises Caucus are Ron Paul types,
Yeah, they were Ron Paul Revolution guys. And that's the thing about it. If they weren't using this to keep Democrats or Republicans from taking over the LP, they were using this to make sure that they personally remain in charge so that they could prevent other libertarians from becoming, going into positions of leadership in the state. Yeah. That's why they used it. This wasn't done so that they could keep a bunch of freaking alt-right fascists out, although that's what they're going to tell you that they did. Right? That's not the reason they did this. They did this so that they could keep the new blood of libertarians out of positions of leadership, which they wrongly perceived to rightfully belong to them.
Right. And by new blood of libertarians, you're talking about new members to the Libertarian Party, but they're following the old libertarian ideologies of like Mises and Rothbard and Ron Paul and Lou Roth. Yeah. The types of people that originally attracted me to the Libertarian Party, probably Nathan, and probably a good deal of the people who listen to this podcast and others like Tom Wood, people like that.
Well, I mean, we're all fascists anyway, so that just proves their point, doesn't it? I mean, Antifa Nebraska called you out, right? And if an Antifa Nebraska is calling you out, that automatically means you're a fascist. Obviously.
I will fist fight all 8 of them.
And with that, we'll call it a night. Thank you, everybody, for joining in to our little show. Remember, if you're listening to the audio version, we do this every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Central on the Roads to Liberty YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roads2Liberty. All right, that's it for tonight. We'll see you next week on another episode of Token and Hobbs. Good night, everybody.